Hey everyone, this is Natalie Antonov with Gable Music Ventures for another interview with the experts. We're bringing you real life advice from real life people who are in any and all industries that can help musicians like you get to your goals faster. Today we have with us Christopher Bruce from King Creative. He is an actor, a writer, a host, a producer, an entrepreneur, among probably a million other things. Hi, how are you doing today?
How's it going? And thanks for having us on. Excited just to kind of sit here in the studio and chat about some music and a little bit about what we do.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Tell me a little bit about King Creative and what services you guys offer.
Yeah, well, we offer a wide variety of services in relation to helping people, companies, individuals, bands connect with their audiences. So, kind of two different parts of the business. Really, you can break it down further than that ultimately, but there's the video production and content development and creation side of the business. And then we also have a full recording studio, which you see me sitting here in the live room. We've got behind me through the glasses, the engineer console, and the isolation booth is on that side over there. And our goal is really to get lost in people's worlds, to kind of adapt quickly and help our clients tell their stories and connect with their audience. And again, we do that through video production. We do that through just creative content and even sometimes just campaign concept development. And then through the music side, obviously working with artists, working with companies to develop their tracks, to their music, their EPs, their albums, all that kind of good stuff. And it's really cool that we get the opportunity to do that and to work with people. Such a joy to do it. I mean, we just love what we do. So I don't know, I could talk about all of it in so many ways, but I know we want to kind of focus on the music side today. So
Absolutely. Now, before we get into more about King Creative, let's focus in on you and how you picked this career path and how you what have you done to get to this point?
oh my
I mean, you own
goodness.
your own creative business. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And it's been a journey, just like you would imagine. I mean, I don't know if I picked it as much as maybe it picked me, or I just
Mm.
sort of was along for the ride, and life has sort of happened, right? So I've told this story a number of times, and depending on what you've seen or haven't seen, but I went to the University of Delaware. That's what kind of got me down in the area.
Blue hens.
And yeah, there you go. And not just, hey, Blue Hens, I was the Blue Hen, right? I was UD for
You were the blue hen?
college. Yep,
No way. Now I've
absolutely.
known two blue hens, or I think I did. Yeah,
Oh,
I forgot his
well, there
name
you
though.
go. And it was a lot of fun, and it opened up a lot of doors. It kind of created a little bit of a change in focus for me. I was going into Delaware pre-med with an idea that I might go into medicine and kind of pursue that route, but it wasn't like I was so headstrong and like set on that, but it was just a direction. It was a starting point. And then I became the mascot, and that opened up opportunities to entertain, to get involved in sports, to get involved in film and production and content development, sort of in a lot of different ways. And as that kind of led me down to really today, that's been my through line throughout, is connecting with an audience, whether it be in a live environment, whether it be as an MC, or host for an event, whether it be producing a commercial spot, writing a script, working with an artist in the studio to help them develop their music. It's all about connecting with an audience. And so that's kind of the thing that keeps throwing me back in, and what's really allowed me to build what we have today in King Creative, and taking all these really cool, interesting, unique, experiences that I've been fortunate to have over my career, working in, like I said, professional sports, working in theater, working in live events, working in production, whether it be for television or film or, you name it, and have the experience not only in front of the camera like we are right now, but also
Mhm.
on the other side. And it's really gives me, I think, a lot of really nice perspective to help those that we're working with.
No, that's an awesome story. I didn't know most of that actually, so that's new to me. Thank you, appreciate it. But that's I think everyone's journey kind of brings them to where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing, and all the things you just said make complete sense. You know that this is where you are, and not a doctor,
Right.
right?
Well, I would
Right.
have connected with my patients, I would imagine, on
I
some
think
level. I
so.
think,
Yeah.
I still think I would have been a good doctor. I don't know if I would, who knows, right? I didn't see that through, but for me, it was about people. And even then it was about people, right? So I would have
Hmm.
been helping people. And now I just do it differently. We kind of heal through laughter. We heal through, emotion and connecting, people with their passions, And, I think for me, that really is just what made sense and what clicks now as it did then when I started on it.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Do you have, now you already spoke a little bit about what your company does for artists and for bands, but
Sure.
in specific, do you have certain services that you would say that up and coming artists would be helped by trying to go get from a business like yours versus doing it DIY?
I mean, there's a lot of things really. I mean, I think the hard part for an artist is you're coming up, you're trying to establish your identity, which, branding and, the other side that we do is obviously very relevant for. And, to do it on your own is great. And sometimes you just got to make it happen. But if you're really serious about giving this a go, anybody that's been in the industry, for any length of time knows that it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. You've got to be committed. And if you can help yourself by increasing the quality of what you're putting out, both on the visuals, but also, from an audio standpoint, if you're doing it at home, unless you've got a full recording studio and in great acoustics and understand really fully how to engineer, mix, master, and everything else that goes into creating a great track, then it's not going to be as good as it could be. And there's so much competition that you've got to stand out and stand out in a good way, not in a, ooh, that doesn't sound as good as maybe something else kind of way, right? So
Right. Hmm.
I think you just have to be honest with yourself and you have to kind of give yourself the best opportunity to be successful. And depending on what you're trying to do musically, because not everybody's trying to be necessarily a solo artist that's going to, make it big and be a radio, type artist. You might
Hmm.
really just love to play and you might want to be a musician, or you might want to, work local events and do cover type music. And that's fine too. I mean, I think you just have to figure out what makes sense for you, what you're getting after, and then evaluate your situation, what you can afford to do, what you can't. And if you can't afford to do it right, maybe you should start thinking about saving up or planning towards being able to do it in a
Hmm.
way that's going to hopefully give you the traction you need to propel your career forward.
Oh, that is great advice to at least start saving up if you don't have the means
Yeah.
to do it now, because everyone is struggling.
It's
So
not easy. That's not sugarcoat it, right? I mean,
nah.
if it was easy, I think you'd see a lot more people, going for it and being artists. It's hard, and it's sometimes, can be lonely, and it sometimes can feel desperate, and sometimes I think a lot of artists struggle because they feel like they've done everything they can do and they're just not getting the breaks that they were hoping for. And the hard part to realize is sometimes it's just that next effort, right? Whatever that is,
Hmm.
that's going to get you there. And I'm sure, and we'll never really know, but I'm sure there's a lot of artists out there that gave up one try too early. And
Mm.
that's hard to
Hmm.
really grasp, maybe, but I mean, I would beg to say that it's true. And you just never know. You don't know when that break is going to happen. So I always say if you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. If you
Hmm.
don't make it happen, maybe you didn't want it as bad as you thought. And
Mm.
that comes with a couple things. There's no time limit on success in that way, right? It may not happen overnight, but if you stick with it long enough, if you keep trying, you keep adjusting, and you keep putting the work in, you have a better chance, at the very least, of succeeding. And I
Hmm.
know it's easier said than done because some people, well, you have to survive, you have to live, you have to eat. These are real things. But
Small things, but
you know, and if you didn't make it happen, the follow up on that is, you either have to be honest with yourself and say, well, maybe I didn't want it as bad as I thought, and be okay with that,
Mhm.
and adjust your goals and your track a little bit. Or if you're like, no, I do want it, then you got to get back to work and you got to refocus, retool, and keep figuring it out.
Right, right. No, and what you're saying makes complete sense in terms of at least our work at Gable Music Ventures, and when we're looking at bands and researching bands all over the internet for which ones we want to place somewhere. We rely a lot on those visual cues and
Yeah.
how professional a band looks, because in our minds it directly relates to, and not always, and it's not always this way, but it directly relates to at least two things. One is, are they in it to win it? And two, are they aware that they need to look professional? Like, is
Right.
this something, are they, so we use it a lot to make those kinds of decisions, unfortunately. And the more that we see these bands, the more we want to tell them, hey,
Right.
like, get your branding on point, please. Get your look on point. Get a picture. Get a good band photo.
Yeah,
Get a logo maybe. I don't know. I know these things all cost money, and not everyone's good at doing them, and we
yeah,
understand that. So we don't use it to make the whole decision. Obviously, if you're a kick-ass band, you are like
right.
you're good. You're talented. We're lucky enough. We know a lot of local bands personally.
Right.
So we don't need to always work off that, but it is helpful if you are in another city
Yeah.
in the US or anywhere in the world, and
Yeah.
you're trying to get seen. So can you specifically speak to the importance of that on your
Oh
end?
my goodness. I've been chomping at the bit while you're
I
talking. I'm like,
know.
oh my God, this is so important. And I mean, I know from your perspective, and you work with a lot of, venues in terms of booking talent, and you can probably speak to this as well as anybody, is that you can say what you want about, yeah, you don't necessarily need a great, logo or a video or a picture, but the clients are making decisions based on what they like. And if they see something or they hear something that is better, if it's visually more interesting, if the quality is nicer, they're going to lean towards that. It's just that simple. And if you have two bands that are maybe level in
Hmm.
a live experience standpoint, and you've got one that has amazing video, or at the very least, a quality video that sounds clean, that looks pretty good, and they have a nice shot of the band, that's a great starting point. And if you have another band that's maybe, again, their level that doesn't, they're going to choose the one with the better picture, with the better video, and they're going to do that all day.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of putting yourself in a better position to win.
Hmm.
And if you value it, you should work really hard to get those tools in place to help yourself. It's really that simple. You can't look at it like, you're sitting back like, hey man, we're really talented. Why aren't we getting bookings? Well, it's pretty obvious. And I'm sure that you guys are working with talent. You're giving them a list of things they can do to help. A lot of people stand out and just say, oh, my hands are out, fill them. Well, it's like
Yeah, right here.
even if you're great and you deserve it, you still got to walk towards it, right? Like you got to help us a little bit. Like help me
Yeah,
help
right.
you, help me
Meet us
help
in the
you.
middle, please.
Yeah, something. So getting a quality group, or a solo, depending on if you're a solo act or maybe you're a duet or you're a whole full group or whatever, get a shot that represents you well. That's
Hmm.
not that hard to do. You can do that with an iPhone, right? You can do
Hmm.
that with, some pretty basic photography skills. Just think about what is going to represent you well. Clean lighting, simple shot will go a long way. Video
Absolutely.
element, if you can get a clean recording, the video, honestly, and I'm curious what you think about this. If
Hmm.
I would almost be more conscious of getting a really clean audio feed off of the board at a gig or something, and then coupling that with some video that you might get off your phone, as opposed to really poor audio quality and the video. Obviously, in a perfect world, you get both, but you want to hear it, right? That's part of,
You,
like, especially if you're booking, you
yep.
want to make sure it sounds good. That's really important.
100%. 100%. I agree with you on that. We'll say it time and time again. It especially when you're booking for a festival or something like that, and you're
Yeah.
going through hundreds and hundreds of bands, and you're
Yes.
asking them to submit a video of their, a live video, and what you get is you can't you can't hear it. You can barely see it because most of the time the quality is horrible and the audio is
Yeah,
horrible.
but at least
If you have a choice, get the audio.
if the audio is clean, you can close your eyes and you can imagine, you can feel it, you can just sort of at least
Hmm.
get a picture in your head. If the video is really clean, now that's great, but if you can't hear it, it's going to be harder for them to
Hmm.
imagine what you'll be like at their festival, in their bar, at their event,
Absolutely.
and so on and so forth. So I would say that's the easy. I mean, you can get a pretty simple audio recorder. There's a lot of options out there. You probably have a friend, or a place like ours can easily come out, tap into a board, get really clean audio, and you can match that with either images or video or whatever, and you could send something as a sample that's at least
Hmm.
going to sound good. I mean, that's got to be a really good start.
It's almost like you're going out and auditioning, but it's in a video format. So you
Right.
have to make sure it's as good as if it was real, if you can, as much as you can.
It's
And
like if you were
audio is super
submitting,
important.
maybe you're submitting pictures for a hand model gig, and you don't, and you send in an image of your foot. It's like, how am I
Yeah,
supposed to make a decision? This doesn't make any sense. So at
absolutely.
least put the things in there that they're
Hmm.
actually judging on, right? Which is in this
Yeah.
case primarily the sound, and
Well,
obviously.
the name of the game is music.
It's music,
So,
right? And it's a universal language, and that's what we feel. That's what we vibe off of. That's what's really going to get you there. So I
mhm.
would work really hard on getting your sound quality up, and that's obviously a really big piece. Put it all together if you can, but audio, make sure that's good.
Absolutely. Now, you touched on something earlier, and I wanted to just finish that out. And this was kind of a conversation about it, although this was more about like quality of what you're putting out there. The branding and marketing aspect, just having your own
Yeah.
brand. What does that mean to
Well,
an
I mean,
artist?
just think about any of the great bands you've known, you grew up with. They all had a logo, right? That's part of their identity. And as you're establishing that, a brand is as simple as that. It's an extension of who you are. And if somebody can see that quickly, they're going to get a sense of that. It's only going to add to that whole persona of what you're individually as, like as a musician or as a group. And it just complements what everything else you have going on. And it does matter. It's memorable, and that's what you want to be. Is you want to be memorable. You want to stand out. And those that have those elements, it shows that one, you're taking a professional approach to it, that you've taken those extra steps, that you care, and it just helps finish the package.
Mhm.
So as you're doing that, you really want to think about who you are. I mean, developing brand isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot that goes into that, but it's not impossible either. And you think about great brands, they're usually pretty simple, right? I mean, you think
Mhm.
about corporate brands, you look at like, and of course, you got Nike. All it is a swoosh, really, right? But that
Mhm.
swoosh didn't mean anything when it was developed. They brought all of what we now think of as Nike. They
Mhm.
brought meaning to that swoosh. So you also have to do something similar. And I would say it's pretty important for a band if you're really trying to take it to the next level and you want to separate yourself and elevate what you have going on. Taking that seriously as a part of it is just another step to get there.
Right. And is that something that King Creative can help do?
It absolutely is. And one of the things we love to do is get started with people early in those processes. So when you're just starting to think about who we are, what we want to be, come to us early. Don't get too far down the road and make like what we consider maybe a bunch of mistakes where we can help dial you in earlier. We can help you come up with the concepts behind it. Really think about how you want to connect with your audience. Who is your audience? Because that could go into really what your brand identity could look like, could feel like, and we will be able to help you through that process. We bring in, depending on the project, we will bring in some outside partners, some subcontractors if needed. If we don't have what you need in house, we are more than happy to collaborate, to work with other groups to get you to where you need to be. For us, it's not about that we're necessarily the best solution for you. It's more about getting you the best solution. So I never worry about that. I'm a collaborator by heart. So at the very end, one of the things we do really well is just help people in that process in developing out the ideas, the concepts, and the thought. And we'll get you to where you need to be in terms of your brand and your logo, whether we design it internally or if we work with somebody on the outside.
All right then. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a turn here.
Okay,
Uh, Bringing in COVID, I'm just going to say it because
sure.
it's everywhere. It has affected the music industry and many other industries
Yeah.
in inexplicable ways. How has your company and your business been affected by it? How have you guys pivoted? What have you done differently to cope with this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, COVID is affected every single person on the planet, let alone artists, musicians, and people in the creative fields like we are. And it's one of those things that forced you to kind of look in, I think. And those that sat there and thought, oh my goodness, this is so bad for me, this is affecting me, this is kind of missed the boat, in my opinion. I think we had to all realize that we were going through this together, that everyone was affected. And if you wanted to get through it, you sort of had to take a half step back, look around, and think more about what you could do and not what you couldn't. And that's what we did. We started focusing on, well, we have all these skills, we got equipment. With my experience and others in our group, know how to run events. We know how to connect with audiences. We've been doing it primarily either in a live sense or we're doing a lot of pre-production and in telling stories through the video channels or in terms of creating music. But we hadn't been doing a lot of virtual. events, but we had all the components to be able to do them well. So we started to figure out, well, how can we do that?
Hmm.
What are the things that we need to do to be able to help a company or an individual transition an event that maybe was live and make that virtual? How can we take, campaigns or various other things and present them in these new ways that people are all learning to adapt, like we are here today, right? This would maybe in the past have been a live interview where we were sitting down together, and instead here we are virtually connecting and moving things forward. And that was the biggest thing that I think we did, that I stressed to our team. And it was about being proactive. It was about taking what we could do, making the most of it, and learning about how we could help others who were struggling to move themselves forward through all of it. And that's really helped us a lot. And I think, but now outside of our business, that's something I think people can do internally for themselves, for their families, for their loved ones, is just be more proactive in terms of how you can take the reins back. And you got to be flexible. You got to figure it out. It's happening to everybody. So it's really on you, I think, to a point, to figure out how to make the most of your situation, which is harder than usual for most everybody right now.
No, that's absolutely true. We are all going through it, and it is just something that you kind of just have to sit down and say, gotta do
Yeah.
it. Just gotta figure it out. Just figure it out, kind
Yeah.
of
And
thing. So
it's,
that's great.
musicians obviously got hit really hard, but a lot of people made it work, right? They got online, they started doing concerts, they were streaming, they were taking donations, they were doing the best they could. And I applaud them for that. I think it was very, very noble. I think that it showed a lot of heart, a lot of spirit, and people needed it too, right? It's not like we didn't want music. It's not like we didn't
Mhm.
need it. We just couldn't get it the way we were used to. And in the future, I think it's opened up some new opportunities we might not have had in the past. And as things start to open up again, you're going to see a combination of live and virtual like we never did before, and that just creates opportunity.
So, talking about how people cope with things, and this kind of makes sense with the next question I was going to ask. A lot of successful people like yourself have routines. They have things that they do every day to keep them focused, to keep them motivated and on track. Do you have anything you do in particular? Any journaling, anything like that?
I'm not. I go through phases with journaling. I think lists do help. I think ultimately having a calendar helps a lot. If it doesn't make the calendar, it doesn't happen almost at this point.
Yeah, right.
I hate to say that, and it really drives me crazy that sometimes when something doesn't make the calendar, that does slip through. But it's really, you just have to have these systems. You got to have processes, and you need to surround yourself with good people, because we're all working hard, we're all moving fast, and there's a lot of stuff coming at us. But the best way to stay productive really is to put those things in place. And you got to make adjustments. Have a plan, like I said, but be flexible. You can't be so rigid that
Mhm.
nope, this has to happen at this time necessarily all the time. It's good to have a set morning meeting, or Mondays at 10 o'clock we get together, we huddle, we look at the week. Those types of things do help, but sometimes you got to adjust, and you need to be able to do that. But that's probably the biggest thing I think for me, is having lists, checking those, having a calendar, understanding deadlines, prioritizing, and finding good people to kind of ride along with you, so that you can all lift each other up and you play to each other's strengths. And don't try to do everything, because you can't. And that's a big deal too, right? In the right people in
Mhm.
the right seats, working together as a team go a long way.
It's that's definitely one of those things that if you're a certain type of personality, kind of like I am, sometimes I think I can get it all done and do it, and you
Sure.
got that go ahead attitude, but then you realize, no, I'm gonna need help. I
Yeah.
don't think I can do this all on
Right.
my own. So that's a
Well,
very good point right there.
and even if you can, doesn't mean you should, right? You may be capable, but are you really the right person to do it? Can you do it as efficiently? Is it the best use of your time? And you've got to be able to
Yep.
make those decisions. So that's kind of a big thing too. Is like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Absolutely, 100%. So when you think about your journey and getting to where you are, what one piece of advice do you think you would give your past self
Hmm.
to make your journey to where you are right now easier or more efficient, less stressful, anything?
I probably would have started to, let go. of certain things earlier. I would have built my team out earlier. I would have started to do some of those things we just talked about earlier, right? I mean, I think we do. I had a lot of energy, and and that I repeated that lesson. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Partly because I'm teaching myself that, right? And I'm guilty as just as anybody of trying to do too much and taking it on. And the more you're able to delegate, the more that you're able to trust people and to bring them up, to give them opportunities, the better. And I think I just would have really focused on finding those good partners, those good people, those teammates, those companions to really drive things forward earlier and not try to do as much on my own. That might be one of the things. I mean, there's a lot of things, to be honest, probably, but I think that's at least one.
No, that's really great piece of advice. I think that applies not only to musicians who might be watching this, but I think to almost anyone. So yeah, that's right on point. Right on point. If a musician wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you? Where are you online?
I mean, we're on pretty much all the social media channels. You can find us. We're King Creative. You can look for the Blue Lion. That's part of the brand, which we talk about branding.
Absolutely.
And you can shoot us emails at a couple spots. You can send info@kingcreative.com. That's like our general email. But you can send me an email directly, and that is cbruce for Christopher Bruce @kingcreative.com. We're at kingcreative.com online, and you just kind of reach out, check in with us, let us know what you're trying to make happen, and we'll do whatever we can to help you.
Thank you. So that's it for the interview today. I really appreciate taking the time to come out and, well, not really come out, I mean, Zoom me and have this conversation and give advice to all the musicians and people who are watching. I think that we hit on a lot of really important points that can apply. And I really I'm so excited to have had a chance to talk to you, even personally, just because every job that I've had in the past has been some sort of visually, graphic type job, whether it's, photography or graphic design or whatever. And it's just been really cool to be able to pick your brain about it a little bit. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And hey, we're here. I like to think of us as a resource, for artists, for the community, and for really anybody that's looking to, like I said before, connect with an audience. So, hey, happy to talk anytime. Bring us back on, or we're here. And I look forward to it. And thanks again for having us on. This was a lot of fun.
No problem at all. Thanks so much. And thank everybody who's watching. If you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up, a double thumbs up. Smash the bell. Give us some comments below. Did we talk about everything we wanted to talk about? Do you have any extra questions? Do you want to see somebody else being interviewed as well? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Until the next interview, though, have a good one. Bye.
See you guys. Thanks a lot.